Shoveling out is one thing, but now Long Islanders need to get ready for a dangerous cold stretch that could take us into next month. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ken Buffa. We'll get to the weather in less than 2 minutes, but first, a retired NYPD sergeant died during the weekend storm. Roger McGovern was about to shovel a walkway yesterday at Our Lady of Victory in Floral Park, where he serves as an usher. A church official said McGovern went to grab a shovel but never made it outside. The 60-year-old leaves behind a wife and 3 grown daughters. And the big storm affected travel and caused lots of closures. You look at what to expect for tomorrow, though. Now, there are still some schools that will be holding classes remotely tomorrow. You can see the latest information on your district's plan by going to Newsday.com. LIRR management is planning to restore normal weekday service tomorrow, but they realize the frigid cold could cause problems that may get in the way of that happening. Best advice? Check the railroad's website and apps in the morning. And the airports are still dealing with delays and cancellations. According to FlightAware, there were nearly 500 flights canceled at JFK today, and it's been a similar story at LaGuardia Airport. Now, lots of people took the opportunity to play in the snow today. These kids were sledding at Cedar Creek Park in Wantagh. And not to be outdone, these kids in Massapequa broke out sleds of their own. It looks like they did not mind not having to sit in a classroom today. Now, some Long Island Railroad customers are hoping for a warmer Jamaica station. It's a story you'll see only in Newsday. Governor Kathy Hochul recently proposed a $50 million facelift for the station. Now, some LIRR riders told Newsday they hope to see improvements that would protect them from the elements like snow. Roughly 240,000 people use Jamaica Station every day. All right, let's take a quick look at tomorrow's weather to see how warm it is not going to be. Look at that. We're in the low 20s. It's going to be chilly all day with clouds overhead, but it's better than snow. Of course, stick with us for that 7-day forecast later in the broadcast.
Out East with Doug Geed is brought to you by Connect One Bank, a better place to be.
Did you know Albert Einstein spent a summer on the island's North Fork? Well, the time he spent here is the inspiration behind a new spy thriller. Let's head out east with Doug Geed.
You think of the East End, you probably think of farms, wineries, the Hamptons, the Montauk Lighthouse, maybe Bayman working on Peconic Bay. You probably don't think of Albert Einstein. But this brilliant man had a great appreciation of this area and quite a few connections here. I'm Doug Geed, out east for Newsday TV.
The book is The Einstein Conspiracy, and it's a historic thriller based on actual events on Long Island, on the North Fork.
Steve Israel represented Long Island in Congress for 16 years. Since leaving Washington, he's written several books, including his latest about Einstein.
Every year he would take a working vacation, and he loved to sail. And he had heard that the North Fork had beautiful sailing, the Peconic, Gardiner's Bay.
So in the summer of 1939, Albert Einstein stayed in a cottage in the Nassau Point section of Cutchogue. From that cottage, Einstein wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt, warning him that Nazi Germany was close to developing a nuclear weapon. Roosevelt didn't receive the letter until 2 months later, but took it very seriously.
And that is what begins the American Atomic Bomb Research Program, which we now know as the Manhattan Project.
Israel took that slice of history and created a spy thriller out of it, where the Nazis try to hunt down Einstein.
This is an important scene in the book, where Einstein is like, no, you could never build a bomb using physics.
The new book has many locals retelling old stories about Einstein's famous visit to their area, a summer vacation that turned out to have a monumental impact on world history.
What if Albert Einstein had not vacationed in Southold in 1939? Those what ifs, those little events, that one letter written in Southold changed the absolute course of history so consequentially.
In Southold for Newsday TV, I'm Doug Geed.
Now, for more Out East segments, go to Newsday.com, click Get More below the Newsday TV video box.
A new plan in the town of Babylon could help ease the island's housing crunch. It's an idea that would potentially transform an already busy stretch of Route 110 in East Farmingdale. Virginia Huey has the details.
It's so congested over here anyway. The last thing that we need on 110, if that's the entrance, is more cars. If it's housing that's affordable, then that's great.
The town of Babylon is proposing an overlay zoning district that would allow for nearly 1,400 residential units to be built in the parking lot of Airport Plaza Shopping Center in East Farmingdale and on surrounding properties.
We're all for development, but not if it's going to hurt us.
Nancy Sipser is a 56-year resident of Farmingdale and a civic leader. She and her members are concerned about higher tax assessments should the developers seek tax breaks through the town. They're also worried about congestion on Route 110.
Between the DOT property and the Airport Plaza, we're already looking at 800 apartments and a warehouse center across the street, all of which is going to add greatly to the traffic at this intersection.
But Farmingdale Chamber of Commerce President Joseph Garcia said the proposal would help address housing needs while also boosting the local economy.
Local small business still is really the driver of the economic engine of Farmingdale and Long Island, and to feed that engine, we need people to live here.
Over the past 20 years, there have been a number of development proposals pitched for the area, which were rejected by local residents who complained the plans were too large for this space. The town of Babylon said they took that into consideration when coming up with the overlay district proposal.
This proposal is very specific and strategic in terms of where the redevelopment can occur and the resources that will be needed, as well as the number of units that would be created. We need to determine what's the sweet spot for what we can absorb in the area.
For Newsday TV, I'm Virginia Huey.
All right, joining me now to talk more about this is Newsday's Town of Babylon reporter Denise Bonilla, Babylon Town Supervisor Richard Schaefer, and Woodland Civic Association President Nancy Sipser. Thank you all for being here with us. We really appreciate your time. Denise, we want to start with you. You've been reporting on this. Give us a little bit more detail about the kind of housing that's being planned for this area here.
Sure. So basically, we're talking about 5 properties on the east side of Route 110. And those properties are currently zoned light industrial. And what the overlay district would do would essentially allow for multi-residential and mixed-use housing on those properties. So the way it's being proposed is that it would be up to 40 units of multi-residential units per acre allowed, or 32 mixed-use units allowed. And there would have to be a minimum of 20% of those units that would be affordable housing.
Okay, something we need here on Long Island. The 20% there would be helpful. Rich, Virginia mentioned in her story that part of the plan is to build over parking lots. How would that work? There are some concerns with that for the businesses.
Sure. Well, if you take a look at Airport Plaza, that was built back in the 90s in order to restore the property that was once known as Fairchild Republic. And Nancy worked for Grumman, which was a military contractor. And so that property sat vacant for a number of years. The movie theater was built, and now with the way movie theaters are designed, it's luxury seating that you could basically camp out in. It doesn't require a lot of parking stalls, and you can see on any one given night vacant parking stalls on that property. So we would do something called an infill, which would be Kimco Realty, which owns that property, would then come in and build units. I think they're looking at about 360 units around the movie theater and around Airport Plaza. So it almost create a small village in that area. So that's how you would address that. Across the street, New York State's been very aggressive at, and under Governor Hochul's leadership, trying to figure out how once and for all we can get rid of that eyesore, the last of the Fairchild buildings that sits on Conklin. That's become a major problem for the East Farmingdale Fire Department in responding there. So how do we get rid of that and make it vibrant once again, both on the tax rolls as well as providing opportunities for temporary construction jobs as well as permanent jobs and housing.
Well, Nancy, we heard from you, maybe not too excited about this plan, some concerns about the impact on taxes, on traffic. Tell us about that. What are you concerned about with this?
Well, right out of the gate, I have to say that I'm definitely in support of more housing on Long Island, definitely. And I know there are some concerns that people have that it's going to increase the population. I think what it's going to actually do is get people out of their parents' basements into their own homes if there were more available units, as long as they're actually affordable units. And so, you know, on the surface, it would appear that the property at the Airport Plaza it's a good idea. There's plenty of space. You have entertainment, you have restaurants, you have things there at the Airport Plaza that would attract people to want to live there. So it sounds like a good idea. However, in this particular spot, there are two very, very critical, as far as this neighborhood is concerned, very critical problems. And that's what we're mostly concerned about. That there has to be a way, especially with the traffic at that intersection, to mitigate the problem. And I know the town has already put forward, back when they were talking about 2,700 units over at the Airport Plaza, they were talking about different approaches that they could use, slowing traffic down, bus rapid transit. I'm not confident that any solution is really going to lessen the traffic at the Conklin and 110 intersection. I think, and I don't know how feasible this is, but I would like to, you're going to be doing environmental studies, I would like to explore potentially the possibility of expanding Conklin east of the Airport Plaza so that it can feed with 4 lanes instead of 2 onto Wellwood Avenue. And maybe that also a north-south route could divert some of the traffic away from the Route 110 Conklin intersection.
One of the things, or the problems that we had over the years, is 110 was built piecemeal. It was built out in piecemeal. So Conklin and 110 is probably one of the busiest intersections on the island. This, I think, is a great opportunity because once we create the overlay district, nothing will move forward until we deal with the 2 biggest questions, which is traffic and how do we mitigate and come up with ideas like what Nancy just suggested, which is what we're looking at as part of this, requiring that to be a part of this. And the good news is we've got Governor Hochul and her team really interested in this because it's going to resolve an issue that she brought up right out of the box when she was installed as governor, that she wanted to address the shortage of 800,000 units statewide.
Denise, this is not the first time that a plan like this has been proposed. Tell us about, quickly, some other proposals.
Yeah, this goes back decades. People have been trying to figure out what to do with these parcels. The limitations with the airport nearby and contamination from past uses are part of the issue. But yeah, in 2005, there was a vision plan that looked initially at 41 acres for mixed-use development. And then later on, I believe in 2010, there was further proposals that looked at a transit-oriented development that, as Nancy had referenced, could lead up to 2,700 apartments on those parcels. So, and that plan was pretty much scrapped in 2018 by the town. And so, it's been decades of trying to figure out what to do with these parcels and how to provide housing that is very much needed, of course.
Right. So, Rich, you say, this plan addresses 2 important issues. We've touched on them a little bit, but what are those important issues to you?
One has to do with what Nancy mentioned, the eyesore of the building that exists there. It's basically a safety hazard at this point. In fact, we've told the East Farmingdale Fire Department, don't go in there. And the chief and I agree because we don't want to put the men and women of the department at risk. I think this is a great opportunity. Again, Governor Hochul and her team have given us this opportunity because we tried for years to get the previous administration to move this forward, to do something. And the good news is that you have people like Nancy who are committed, spending their own time, volunteer time, to want to make the community better. And we can't ask for anything more of having her and the people involved in not only her civic, but all the other community organizations giving the input and, like she said, addressing the other issue, which is traffic. We know traffic is there and we know it's one of the busiest intersections, but I think this is a great opportunity because one of the things that comes with Governor Hochul's involvement is there's a pot of money that's made available to developments like this, and to accomplish a widening of Conklin is going to cost a lot of money that we just don't have. And so that's where we can say to the governor and her team, hey, here's all the ideas we came up with how to really do this well. Send us the money and we'll make sure it gets done.
All right, so speaking of, if this proposal does not get approved, are there other plans to address specifically the housing shortage?
Well, we have it throughout the town, and not just particularly in East Farmingdale. We have done different downtown redevelopments, like in Copeg. Tony Martinez, our deputy supervisor, has kind of quarterbacked that effort down there. We've created probably about 1,200 units in the downtown Copeg area around the Copeg train station. Wyandanch Rising, which is another redevelopment, major redevelopment that started under former supervisor Steve Ballone and has really entered the third phase of redevelopment. You go over there and you can see there's about 2,500 units. We're now entering the ownership phase of that, which is going to be townhouses. And now we're looking at the hamlet of Deer Park.
The town still has to conduct a state environmental quality study. That's expected sometime next month. The plan must also be approved by the town board. So a lot of steps to clear here before this could possibly become a reality. We'll stay on top of it. My thanks to Denise Bonilla, Nancy Sipser, and Supervisor Richard Schaefer for their time. You can read more about this on our website, newsday.com.
All right, let's take a look at your 7-day forecast because, folks, believe it or not, it is only Monday. Now, as you can see, it's going to be quite chilly. We're only in the 20s pretty much all week. Now, Sunday, it does say snow. We're going to keep an eye on that to see if it's actually happening because, boy, oh boy, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of snow.
Long Island weather is brought to you by PTRC.
Now, for more on the stories you've seen here today, head over to Newsday.com. Click Get More below the Newsday TV video box. I'm Ken Buffa. More news coming up.
Watch Newsday TV on the big screen. Use the remote to activate Siri, Alexa, Roku, or the Google Assistant on your streaming device. Say, install Newsday. Newsday TV, covering Long Island like no one else can.